En ter ere van Kees van der Woude gaan we luisteren naar het Nederlandse volkslied. Aan de linkerkant, hij komt eveneens uit Engeland, Tony Bos. En de winnaar van vandaag, die komt uit Nederland. Voor de zoveelste keer op het podium, hij doet het heel goed, Kees van der Woude. En voor hem natuurlijk de oh. Gaat hij nog? Ja. Mister erbij, nog even bij elkaar voor de foto. Ja, big smile. Voor het familiealbum en hebben we alles bij elkaar. Kees van der Woude, Tony Bos en Ian Foley. En de champagne gaat aan de gang, dus wij gaan even snel hierachter weg.
Ja, dames en heren, dan hebben we nog een speciale gebeurtenis. Wij hebben een reporter die al 31 jaar hier op het circuit van Zandvoort actief is met het commentaar geven. En dat internationaal en nationaal uitstekend heeft gedaan. Rob heeft te kennen gegeven, en dan bedoelen we Rob Petersen, heeft te kennen gegeven dat hij er dit jaar mee stopt. En dat dit vandaag eigenlijk zijn laatste optreden is. Ik zou hem graag willen huldigen. Rob, als jij even plaatsneemt op het eresgevat op de eerste plaats, want voor ons ben jij absoluut nummer 1. Dat kan niet anders. Dames en heren, onze reporter Rob Petersen die ons helaas het commentaar gaat verlaten. Niet het circuit, maar ik zou een overdovend applaus willen hebben voor Rob Petersen, dames en heren. En dan geef ik even de microfoon aan Erik Weijers.
Dankjewel Erik. Ja, dan vraag ik jou om er ook even bij te gaan staan. En hebben we het volledige speakerteam van Zandvoort. Die natuurlijk niet alleen onder leiding van Rob de laatste jaren alle races hier op het circuit van een zeer professioneel commentaar heeft voorzien. Graag een hartelijk applaus voor Rob als dank voor 31 jaar speakerwerk hier op het circuit. En jongens, de ploeg die we nu zijn, met elkaar gaan we natuurlijk volop verder. Maar Rob, dankjewel.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the 10th and final race in the 6th round Competition102 GT4 European Series. We had a humdinger first thing this morning here at Zandvoort. Conditions, we were worried there might be a drop of rain before the start of this race. It might yet come before the end because it's over an hour until the end of the race. But right now we've got perfect track conditions, much more grip in the surface than there was this morning. And as always in the GT4 European Series, 2 driver races, and the driver who started second in the first race is now starting first from the grid this time around. Good chance to look at car number 18. Pressure off the crew there completely because Peter Turting, who's standing in the pit lane, and Jörg Wiebahn their result in the opening race today. A cautious 8th place was enough to clinch the overall title. A Pro-Am title has gone their way. That's in the number 18 Porsche Cayman. So great delight for the German crew here at Zandvoort. However, still we've got 4 crews or drivers, representatives from 4 other crews who could take the runner-up position in that championship. In the AM classes, well, here are the results of this is the grid. In fact, Bernhard van Orangis will be starting Rob Severs alongside the 2 Ecris M4s. Maciej Dresser will be starting second. Mads Siljehaug, who finished the first race with victory, he is starting, however, with a yellow card because of contact with the number 62 Aston Martin. So any mishaps from him and he will be punished. He's aware he has that hanging over him, much as a football player does. But just to go back, as we look down the grid, Nikolai Moller-Madsen and Andreas Patzelt starting 12th. They had an outside chance of the Pro-Am title, but for them they only picked up a few points this morning because they finished just outside the top 10 in 12th position. So that is why Terting and Wiebahn have landed the title. In the AM class, Jan Kasperlik is leading by a mere 8 points from Jerome Demey. Jan driving on his own in one of the Porsche Caymans, this one from the Allied Racing crew. And Jerome Demey sharing his Street Art Racing Aston Martin with Damien Dupont. Damien will be starting the race this afternoon. 50 minutes plus 1 further lap. Driver change between minutes 20 and 30 in this race. The grid starting to get busy as the first half of this 27-car grid comes around. In fact, we may be missing 1, possibly 2 cars because the number 24 KTM Crossbow from the Hollinger team, Lennart Marinek, had a big thump with the barriers this morning on the exit of Chevlac. I don't think that one will polish out. And also I'll keep an eye out to see if the number 50 Viorba Corsa Maserati Gran Turismo, shared by Piotr and Anthony Chodson. It should be Piotr starting this afternoon, but that had damage after contact with another car and with the barriers coming out of Tarzan. However, that would still leave us with 25 cars, just showing how this GT4 European Series has grown so strongly, this coming to the end of its 2nd season, and already great plans have been laid down with a 2nd championship next year. It'll be a series, effectively, it's going to be called the GT4 European Series Southern Cup, with races at Nogaro, Pau, Dijon, Magny-Cours, a little outing south of the French border to Spain, to the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona, and then Paul Ricard. So effectively a Northern Championship and a Southern Championship all together next year, just showing how this championship is spreading its wings. So up the front end of the grid we've got a mixture of BMWs, KTMs, Maseratis, the one and only Sin, that's number 11, that hasn't got to the front of the grid as yet, with Aston Martins in the mix behind, and then Porsches galore in the midfield. And a great chance to look down the grid towards that famous first corner of the lap here at Zandvoort. Tarzan. And let's go down to the grid and see who Max Brahms has managed to catch up with.
Patrick, second race today, for you the first start. This morning it was one big fight. I saw the Maserati in the front, in the back, in the middle. Will it be the podium today?
I don't know, I really don't know. This morning I had a really good stint. I overtook few cars. I was trying to catch up the 3rd place to finish on the podium, then I made a mistake and we ended up on 5th. We are struggling a bit with our car here because it doesn't fit really well for this circuit. But at the end, what we try to do is enjoying and finish the championship in beauty because we really did enjoy all the season.
Good, but you start well, pole position, the same like this morning on the front, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
And make sure you have a podium this race.
Thank you so much.
Well, that was good. Max catching up with Patrick Zamperini, who drove so well through the closing stint of that race, kept his tyres sweet. We had 2 safety car periods, and a lot of it was drivers just nursing their tyres through that, and then when the safety car peeled off, having some tyre life left to fight. And the fact that Maserati came right up, I think it got as high as 3rd or 4th, and then in the final sort out, as Patrick mentioned, he got shoved back a little bit down into 5th place. But the speed is in the car, and Luca Anselmi, his teammate, has won twice. So let's go and hear from Jan Kasperlik, the driver who is leading the way in the AM table. And down on the grid with Jan Kasperlik sitting on board.
Damien, with your Aston Martin, very fantastic car. Your team is doing very well. I see you on the 2nd row here on the GT4 European Series last race. You're still fighting for the championship. Will you make it, you think?
Yeah, the pace in the race 1 is very good. I hope that the pace in the race 2 is the same, and I hope to undertake the car behind of me for win the title for my coéquipier Jérôme Demey. Yeah, for me it's a championship is not possible to win, and I hope to win for my coéquipier and the team.
What do you expect? What will happen? Can you get the car in the lead position before the podium? Before the podium, can you get it into lead position?
I must win. I must win this race, and the car 22 must finish the 3 position behind me.
Good luck.
Sorry, just to mislead you there, that was actually Damien Dupont who's sharing with Jérôme Demey. They are 8 points behind Jan Kaspelik. That's in the AM Championship, so they can still take the title. Drivers do have to do maths. You could hear what Damien was saying there about where he has to finish. Of course, he's handing over the car at around the halfway point in this race to Jérôme Demey, who'll take over the Street Art Racing Aston Martin. For Jan Kaspelik, he doesn't have to do any handing over. He is staying in the Allied Racing Porsche all race. He will have to have the same amount of time at standstill in the pits, however, just to keep things fair. That's the battle for AM Honours. Grid absolutely packed with people in this October sunshine here at Zandvoort, and still the cars going forward. You can see the yellow Maserati working its way through. That's the Swiss team Maserati. Will be started by Giuseppe Fasciolo and handed over to Mauro Calamia, working his way up to about 10th place on the grid there. Absolutely solid with people. KTM Crossbow being pushed up the middles. Porsches, BMWs to either side. Good to see the silver and red Porsche halfway up on the right hand side. That didn't finish the first race, but that's one of the 2 Brooks Speed Porsche Caymans, and Graham Mundy will start. Stephen Licorice will hopefully finish the race in that. Alongside bottom left of your screens, you can just about make out the roof of the white Porsche with number 19 on the back window. That is Andreas Patzelt starting. But let's go up to the front end of the grid. Max with Steve Guzman.
Steve, congratulations with your championship.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was a tough season, and of course a really good end for us.
It was a pretty tough season. It's a new created car created by Pro Sport Performance. You are at this moment for the Pro titles in lead position with 1 and 2. It will be very close. What do you need to do to win the championship with your cars?
Yeah, we will try now to push our car, yeah, as far in the front as we can. We have a strategy behind it, and yeah, I hope Nikolai and Andreas they will make it in the end. It would be really good to end the season with 1 and 2.
That's very good. But having said, both cars of Pro Sport Performance are leading for are aiming for the championship. Will there be any crashes or?
No, not between our cars at least.
So you keep it safe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good luck.
Thank you.
That was Steve Guzman of Pro Sport Performance, standing right by the number 19 car I was trying to pick out down on the grid. So yes, big smiles on his face because his team are well clear in the championship. They cannot be caught. They have won the team category, and either one of their 2 pairs will take they've got a chance of the AM title to add to the Pro. But it's been a very strong season for that team. Sorry, their teams first and second in the Pro AM, sorry. In the AM Championship, it's Allied Racing that's leading with Jan Kaspelik in yet another Porsche Cayman. Such a strong car this year. And Max is hunting down people on the grid. This is his last chance to catch them before their final race this year. And certainly GT4 is a championship and a category on the move, and is growing, and there are further exciting announcements for 2018. What I can tell you for 2017, Mercedes will have a car homologated for this, and so will Audi. Ford ought to be bringing a new Mustang, and Chevrolet a new Camaro. So potentially 13 different makes of car could be on the grid in 2017, and that has to be very good news indeed. Still trying to look down towards the back of the grid. Now let's hear from, well, it's very hard to tell who they are, but we think they're from Reiter Engineering. Who are you? How are they, Max?
Who are you?
I'm the team manager of Team Hollinger, but also known as Hans Reiter. We're part of the Reiter Young Stars scheme from Hans, and it's our last race, so we just want to say big shout out and thank you to Hans. Thanks, Hans.
Well, that's good to hear from, I thought they were triplets, quadruplets. Many Hans Reiters down on the grid, but they've got every reason to be pleased because it's been such a successful championship with all those KTM crossbows proving so quick. And as we saw, a first victory for them this morning with Mads Siljehaug built on what the Polish racer Maciej Dresa had done in the first half of the race and coming through with the final few laps just to move ahead of the number 9 BMW, which had managed to get into the lead at the start of the race, but it was a long race, plenty of incident, and right at the end we had the number 64 car, number whichever car it was, I beg your pardon, coming through to the top, number 84, Siljehaug and Dresa. Number 18 though is a car that if it could have a smile on her face, it would, because for Peter Terting and Jörg Wiebahn, who'll be starting this second race here at Zandvoort, the final race of the 2016 series, it's been a very good year for the crew. They're starting some way down the order, but it doesn't matter. They've just got to they've done all they needed to do today. 8th place in the first race was enough for them to nail the championship, and now they can go out and enjoy very much what they're doing. They're starting Dow in 15th place on the grid, so there is some overtaking to be done, but they can do it now without any concern about a little brave movement turning out to be something that's not so good. I can see Max is down with the car, and hopefully any second now we'll hear from Max. Should be leaning in to speak to Jörg Wiebahn.
Jörg, are you champion or not?
What a question. Yes, I think the points made me champion today, and I think we kept patient. The BUP was really hitting hard, well, we took it as it was and did the best out of it, and finally we got through, and now we're champion. That's okay.
You need some few points, I think 1 or 2, to finalize it 100%. So basically it's just finish the race on P8 or P9, get the points and take the championship, and tonight one big party, or?
This is what we do. We're going to meet in Shenzhen tonight. Everybody's invited. We're going to have a big party, I'm sure.
Enjoy your race and good luck.
Well, it was good to hear from Jörg Wiebahn there. I think come what may, there will be a big party, and certainly, you know, it's good to have a social scene alongside the championship, and I know a lot of the crews really appreciate the parties that are put on alongside the Competition102 GT4 European Series, because this is about the whole show. It's not just about what happens on the track, and you can see why it is becoming such a popular series, and some great sportsmanship. Now, one car being pushed off in the background, it's one of the KTM crossbows. I can't see if it's the 64 car or the 74. One's got an orange band, one's got red. It's quite hard to see as it's being pushed away in the background down the pit lane. We'll try and work out which one that is, but not the dream start for them. The race is going to get underway in about 12 minutes, so hopefully that can be fixed and start from pit exit. And if it's number 64, that was starting right at the back anyhow. Jan Kasperlik, we want to find out from him, and Max has got straight down. Well done, Max, down with Jan Kasperlik, driver leading GTM.
You're leading currently in the GTM, but I think it's only 7.5 points. So that will be very difficult.
Very difficult, but if we stay one place behind the Aston Martin, that means if we get second, then half point still remains.
But it's quite a thing. You drove the half of the season, you drove with the BMW M3. Now you decided to take the Porsche Club Sports MR GT4. What is the difference with the cars?
It's a totally different driving style. That's why I'm needed Hungary already to get used to it, and it still worked for me to get used to the Porsche. But yeah, that's the game. No risk, no fun.
So you like to take some risk?
Always, you have to take some risk, otherwise you cannot win.
Well, good. Don't take too much risk for the championship today. Make sure you will stay 1 point in front and take the championship. All the best.
Thanks, Max. See you later. Thank you.
So yet again, drivers having to do maths. Not always a good combination, but it's 25 points for a win, 18 points for second place in class. There's a 7-point difference, so he has to keep just that position if they do get up to first and second in class. If they're fighting for position further back, then the maths become very different indeed. But it's about keeping it safe. It's getting through Tarzan the first time around and then seeing how the race unfolds from there. But the fact that Jan Kasperlik is challenging for the championship, having changed car midway through the season, that's very impressive. Very different cars, the BMW and the Porsche, but certainly Porsche gaining in popularity at the moment in the GT4 European Series. Now counting down our way towards the start of the race. 50-minute race plus 1 extra lap beyond that 50-minute mark. Pit stops between laps the 20th and the 30th minutes of the race. Day starting, still bright blue skies here, but a little more cloud around. But the promised rain, not that we wanted rain to be promised, some way off, we hope. Back at the grid on the right-hand side, you can see the tail of an Aston Martin. We were due to have a white one from Generation AMR Super Racing, but damage yesterday, big damage, led to an overnight run from the UK, and it's now a brand new dark metallic blue Vantage at the tail of the grid. That's number 144. For Peter Terting, he'll be standing, that's probably his feet just in front of the number 18 Porsche. His teammate Jörg Wiebahn, we heard from him, he will be starting that from fairly much a mid-grid position ahead of this final round, but we've seen that you can pick your way towards the front. Certainly there will be incident. Rob Severs, he will be starting at the sharp end of the grid in one of those two wonderfully liveried Ecris Racing Team Holland cars, the BMW M4s, so effective. He will start and hand over to Simon Knapp, who drove a very strong opening stint, got up into second place. So let's hear, Max is down there with Rob Severs.
Rob, P1 I see Ecris, P2 I see Ecris, but I also see Hans Severs.
Yeah, that's right. We are also a BMW dealer in Holland, like Ecris. So we are both dealers, and yeah, we are working together to get racing a good advance.
But you did quite a good qualify. You had this season quite a lot of trouble. Now you're on the first row, starting on P2. Both Ecris, it will be pretty tough, I think, to start.
Yeah, it's really tough. So we both gonna fight for the win. Let's hope for a good start without any problems. We have enough problems this season, so let's hope for a clear race like this morning.
So what's the secret of the start here?
To get out of trouble and be careful with cold tires, I think.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
So it's good to see young faces at the front end of the grid as well, just showing it's Rob Severs who's talking to Max Brahms down there. That's the view from the bridge across the circuit. In fact, that's a very long view. The bridge we can see with the starting gantry is across the middle. So this is a very long view down from the final corner of the circuit. Now, we get to the serious point in the day. We've had the race in the morning with incident galore and some great racing out there. And now it's time for those two BMWs on the front row to focus. That's Rob Severs being strapped into the number 8. If people would clear, in the background is an identical car with a number 9 on it. And that would be started from pole position by Bernhard van Orange. And yes, you can just see flashes of the orange BMW on the inside of the front row. That is on the pit wall side. BMW i8 course car at the front with the doors flipped up at the side. And there is the 144 Super Racing Aston Martin. That was completely blue when it arrived this morning. They managed to put some stickers on it to give it some colour, but that was a great job from the crew. Came here yesterday and they hadn't planned for another car to be brought out, but 3 o'clock this morning it made it to Zandvoort. Good to see so many people down taking a look at the cars on the grid, but they are now being flagged away. I wonder how many people are going, I rather fancy doing that in the years to come. And certainly this championship visits some very, very great circuits, real drivers' circuits for the crews to get their teeth stuck into. And they get 4.5 hours of track time at each of the meetings, which is plenty. We have championship titles for Pro-Am, Am and Team. 3 titles. 2 of them are still to be decided. Just to reiterate, one of them is still to be decided because Pro Sport Performance, they have absolutely trounced all others. But in the team championship, Viorba course, RYS Team Hollinger, Racing Team Holland by Ecris Motorsport, their 2 cars on the front row, V8 Racing International, who aren't here this weekend, and Street Art Racing can all still take a tilt at finishing as runners-up in the team's title. You'd have to say Racing Team Holland by Ecris Motorsport 4th at the moment, but they're only 5.5 points down on Viorba course. They have to be the favourites to take that runner-up position behind Pro Sport Performance. In the Pro-Am title, it's already sealed by the number 18 crew, Peter Terting and Jörg Wiebahn. But the one that is still to be decided, Jan Kasperlik, only 8 points ahead of Jerome de May. So it's Kasperlik in the number 22 Allied Racing Porsche. And Jerome de May, Damien Dupont, we heard from him on the grid. He hasn't been in all season, but their Street Art Racing Aston Martin is ahead on the grid of its championship rivals. So plenty to be fighting for. Back 3/4 of the grid now clear for all to see. We will have a a formation lap, and as they get to the final couple of corners going into Kumo Bocht and then the Arre Looyendijk Bocht, they should be lined up in 2x2 formation for the rolling start. They got it right at the first time of asking this morning. One beauty this afternoon, there's a bit more heat in the tarmac. We saw people actually spinning on their outlap on their way round to the grid this morning, just dismayed to find how little grip there was. But this afternoon there's been a bit more heat through a really lovely sunny October Sunday here at Zandvoort. And now we can really get to see the cars in all their beauty as people are just being ushered through a gap in the pit wall. 50 minutes of racing lie ahead of us. Now, a car we haven't seen too much of is the Auto Orlando Sport. It's the only Porsche 911 in the field, and that's shared by Alessandro Giovanelli, but starting the race, Giuseppe Gessi. And they, of course, will swap at some point between minutes 20 and 30. And in this morning's race, two of them finished just outside. Well, in fact, they fell back towards the end. They fell down to 21st position, but the speed is in their car. One of their fastest lap, set in the first part of the race between safety cars, was one of the quickest out there. This car started, the 41 Porsche, that started on pole for this morning's race, but is starting further back. It's one of the two Brook Speed Porsches, and Luke Brahms will start this afternoon, and then handing over to Duncan Houseman. And what Duncan doesn't know about the circuit here at Zandvoort is not worth knowing. And a lot of the drivers he's raced with, not over the years, over the decades, are out on the grid with him, including Ricardo van der Ende. But they're pulling off the grid to leave the way for their co-drivers, potentially their sort of less experienced co-drivers who are going to go out and race this afternoon. Everybody off the grid, please. Ricardo van der Ende leaning in to smile through the windscreen and offer encouragement to his pole starting teammate, Bernard van Oranje. Now we can see the Sin tucked into behind the number 8. That's an unusual car from Bulgaria. And that's from Sofia Car Motorsports, named after the capital city. But the Sin R1 has been very effective, but it hasn't landed the results that its speed has always suggested it could. And starting from the outside of the front row is Edouard Anton, and he'll hand over to Nikolai Sergiu this afternoon in the second half of the race. Right, this is the formation lap. This is not the start of the race. This is the lap they have to complete in beautiful grid formation, 2x2 through the final corner. Get the speed up, look for the lights on the gantry, and then off they should go, hopefully for a nice, clean but tight run down to turn 1, to the famous Tarzan. So just waiting for the signal, flags to be waved, and the pace car to take them round. 50 minutes of racing lie ahead of us. And if it's as good as this morning, 15 seconds to go, there's going to be plenty to enjoy, and then hopefully no safety cars this afternoon. Because for a lot of the drivers, they just got to start racing, and then at the end of the opening lap, the safety car picked them up, because unfortunately Lennart Marionek had that big accident. He's fine, I understand, out of Chevlac, and converted his car into more parts than it should have been in. Is everybody going to get cleanly off the grid? So far, so good. For the drivers, once the grid is clear of people, it's their chance to really focus. This is their chance just to fine-tune their understanding of the level of grip out on the circuit. Aston Martin bringing up the rear, so I think it is probably the 64 car we saw being pushed into the pit lane. Let's just double check. It looks like the 74, which was the other one. I thought it might have been one of the two dark liveried KTM crossbows. Seeing Thomas Enger, so many years working with Reiter Engineering, he is here to oversee all the young driver scheme entries. A lot of them gained some really good track time and experience, and not just any old tracks through this season. You know, when you start your year at Monza and you end at Zandvoort and go to places like Silverstone and others in between, including the street circuit at Po, you're really gaining valuable experience. Certainly one of the cars that came good towards that end, at the end of the first race, was that number 84 KTM Crossbow. Masai Dresser started it, but Mads Siljehout worked his way up to the leading quartet, worked his way through it. There was a little bit of contact, unfortunately, that had the then second place Aston Martin off the circuit. They both managed to keep going, put the Aston Martin down to 5th. That worked its way back to 4th. So a yellow card hanging over that crew. Here is the grid. The number 9 BMW on pole from the sister car, two Ecris M4s at the front of the grid. Then Mads Siljehout starting the best of the KTM Crossbows in 3rd. And so we go on back. Fourth place was the Sin, as we had seen. Jan Kasperlik, look out for him. Starting number 22, down in 13th position. The car he's got to look for is starting 6 places further ahead. That's the Street Art Racing Aston Martin number 7. He's got to keep it in his sights and get close. But not all the cars in between are in the same class. So effectively, he's just got to keep his eye on it and be sure he just finishes 1 place behind it, and that will be enough. Field should be bunching up now. 2 by 2 they come through the Kumo Bocht for the final time. Until the very end of the race, at anything other than racing speed, they need to be side by side in pairs. They're getting into pairs. Need that, the Maserati, the yellow one, to move up a little bit. All looking good. So the race director will be looking for the moment. Is he going to be satisfied with the formation behind? It's looking fairly tidy. Yeah, pretty good indeed. Now, is it going to be either of those BMW in the lead when they get down to Tarzan? Will it be the Sin blasting past from the outside of the front row, or the KTM Crossbow from the inside? All eyes on the front. Look too for that silvery Aston Martin starting 7th. That is the car challenging for AM honours. Some of the grid have let themselves get a little bit further behind. They need to start bunching up tighter than that. If anything, the car on the front, outside the front row, is a nose ahead of the one on the inside. Now they're side by side, waiting for the lights, and the Maserati trying to come straight down the middle. 4 abreast down to the first corner. BMWs look good. Oh dear, we've got 2 cars brushing the wall on the inside. And that's number 22. That's Jan Kasperlik, who's leading the AM class. He's had a clash. Oh, dearie me, with Graham Mundy in one of the 2 Brook Speed Porsches. We've got another car off further around. I think we'll be having a safety car, but for our championship leader in AM, all he had to do was keep it clean, and there's been a clash on the run to the first corner. I was just saying 4 abreast was tight. We have 9 ahead of 8 as they were on the grid. The 2 Ecris BMWs leading the way, tucked into 3rd place as it was on the grid is that KTM Crossbow, Massieu Dresser. But the car that was challenging for AM honours has got up from 7th to 4th, so a really, really strong start from Damien Dupont. But it does seem as though their championship rival is out of the race. Poor old Jan Kasperlik just trying to keep it clear and clean in the Allied Racing Porsche, and into the wall he goes. 18, that's the car that's already won the overall title. Peter Terting and Jörg Wiebahn. Wiebahn at the wheel, trying to pick up a place or 2 down into Bocht number 9. Up the inside he goes. The car's all run towards the outside of the circuit, and he's got the move done on the BMW there. But the BMW looking to fight back. That's number 72. That's Peter Christian van Orange trying to hand his way back. He will hand over later to Tim Coronel. Such a useful driver. Look how far back the Sin has fallen on the opening lap. It started 4th. It's not in the picture as we took a look at the top 7, 8, 9 cars, and those 2 Porsches, the Brook Speed, the red and silver Porsche at the side of the circuit, and also Jan Kasperlik's number 22 Allied Racing Porsche in the wall, out of the race. 9 and 8 BMWs come round. The safety car just nips out in time to take the field. So as it was, unfortunately, this morning, as the drivers come round at racing speed at the end of the opening lap, they've seen the waved yellow flags, they've slowed as they're supposed to, and they're coming down the start-finish straight, aware that yes, they might have gained a position or 2, but now they have to calm right down. The big gain was the Aston Martin in 4th place from 7th to 4th. Its championship rival is the white Porsche with the black bonnet with the stripes up it. That's Jan Kasperlik. He was leading the AM Championship on points. He is out of the race. Didn't get as far as Tarzan. Like to have a look at the replay of the start when we can. And here is the replay of the start. How's that for an instant replay? Great start from the BMWs at the front. Maserati tries to come up the middle, clashes with the Aston Martin. Martin pushes it out of way. I couldn't see if somebody tagged Jan Kasperlik. In the first race, the Brook Speed Porsche, the red and silver one, was in a clash with the 50 Maserati. And this time, again, the innocent party. Damage, frustration for Mundy and Licorice out of the race. And huge disappointment there for Jan Kasperlik. He's out of the car. Would almost need that replay from other angles as well. From the front end, I couldn't see. Certainly, he's got nothing to complain about. From, well, he's crossed with the other Porsche, but I think he came across on the 40 Porsche, not the other way around. Well, I'm sure there'll be plenty of conversation about that, but I think in fact what we possibly had there were 2 innocent parties caught by another car that triggered one into the other. No such problems for the BMW crews at the front. They were on the front row and they led down to the first corner just as all racers would like to have it. But for those behind, the situation got very difficult indeed. When you get cars 3, 4 abreast, it's always tight, and unfortunately you do sometimes get what you call the concertina effect. Someone makes a little hiccup up at the front and those behind pay the price, and certainly for Jan Kasperlik He knew he had a fight on his hands. He knew he had to keep the street art racing Aston Martin in his sights, and unfortunately he watched it eventually go round Tarzan while he was already in the pit wall. Who gained at that start and who lost? Certainly that street racing Aston Martin gained big time. It gained 3 places up the run. There it is, the silver one, now leading the AM class 007. The street art racing Damien Dupont will hand over to Jérôme Dumais. Dupont cannot take the title because he hasn't been there all season, but Dumais has, and it looks as though the title is his. But then again, Jan Kasperlik thought he had it pretty well lined up. So still got to wait while those 2 Porsche Caymans are cleared up. It's going to take quite a tow to get them off, but luckily they're just by pit exit. They should be hauled back in. So just to reiterate, you can see the 2 Ecris M4 BMWs at the start of the field. You can see they're going slowly because the safety car is out. Maciej Dresser in the KTM Crossbow that won the opening race this morning is in 3rd place. 4th place, Damien Dumont will hand over at the 20 to 30 minute mark to his teammate Jérôme Dumais, who ought to take the AM title. 5th place is William Moore in the Aston Martin that was started early this morning by Dennis Sandberg. And you can see what they're being asked to do: stay wide in case there's any debris out on the circuit. Marshall's doing a great job down there. A bit of cleaning up to be doing. 5th place had some body contact. Sorry, 6th place had body contact with William Moore, Aston Martin, as they tried to squeeze up the middle. And maybe we can take another look at the start. Look down to the middle order. Ignore the BMWs at the front. Just trying to see who tagged the back. Well, was there a shove from the BMW that's just diving down on the infield? Certainly the result was that it was a pincer manoeuvre on the number 22 Jan Kasperlik Porsche, but I don't think it's entirely fair to blame the Brookspeed Porsche that was on the pit wall side. Anyhow, good to see the replay many a time. Sad to see 2 cars clashing at the start, both of whom obviously looking to end their seasons on a high. So certainly the best place to start a race is from the very front of the grid. Now we have a red flag. We're going code red. That means we're going to bring the cars to a halt while the cleanup is effected, because we don't want, and the cars will come into the pit lane, we don't want them picking up any further debris that might have been scattered by the pit exit with the clash between the 22 and 40 Porsches. Certainly you don't want a tyre to suddenly pick up a flat tyre as you're approaching Tarzan at full speed. Number 22 Jan Kasperlik's Porsche is now being towed clear. It's going to be harder to remove the 40 Porsche from Brookspeed Racing because they have more damage to the front of their car. You can see the suspension is really at quite an angle. You can see the front damage. That wasn't from the contact between the 2 cars. That was the clash then with the wall on the inside of the circuit. So serenely around, you can see the red flags waving at the side of the circuits. The drivers will now acknowledge that. They know they won't be continuing behind the safety car. They're going to be brought in to the pit lane to a standstill and await clearance to find out when they'll be allowed to go racing again. And of course, when you have the safety cars on the circuit, you have the clock ticking down. There is no running clock at the top of the screen at the moment. So for a number of drivers, they've been promoted by what happened on the run down to Tarzan on the opening lap, and others have lost out in the traffic, and certainly the Sin fell backwards in the hands of Edouard Anton. And that started from 4th, and it's tumbled some distance down the order. There is the Sin, number 11 at the back of that grouping of BMWs and Porsches. But that's a car that's been driven by many drivers this year, shown great spurts of speed, but just hasn't nailed the results that those that raw speed can result in. Now, looking down the start-finish straight, still clearing up ahead. You can see the 5 red lights on the starting gantry. You can see the waved red flags. So there should be no confusion from any of the drivers, and they're all acknowledging it well and diving into a standstill in the pit lane. Marshall's into the hands of their arch rival, Jérôme Dumais. Still waiting. The flatbed is there because clearly that number 40 Porsche is not one that can be towed away. So 2 races and 2 incidents, unfortunately, for the Brookspeed Porsche. And I think, quite honestly, they'll think their stars are not in alignment because the Chodson Maserati gave them a clonk in the first race, and now they've been pushed into the pit wall in the second. So enormously disappointing for them. And Jérôme Dumais cannot be caught by any of the rivals behind, even if Giuseppe Jesi and Alessandro Giovanelli, who are 4th overall in AM, take the maximum points, they will, I think, yes, they will still stay agonisingly short on the overall tally. All the drivers now line astern in the pit lane. The one at the back of the pack there looks to be number 44, Rebecca Jackson. Starting that, we'll hand over to Thomas Krebs. The Aston Martin has got ahead on that first lap of racing, and then of course they were greeted by the safety car and went around for several laps while those two Porsches were cleared up on the approach to Tarzan. In fact, quite some way short of Tarzan, because they hit the pit wall pretty much just on the other side of the wall from where the number 9 Bernhard Ferraro-Ranghi BMW is sitting waiting. So for the marshals, they will, and the rescue crews, they've been doing this all season. Hopefully not very much in terms of picking up stricken cars, but very much part of the arrangement. And one of the beauties racing in a place like Holland, you have such good marshals, wearing the national orange, of course, on their marshals overalls. And the Brookspeed Porsche should be winched away very quickly indeed. All know what they're up to. And for the rest of the drivers, it's just a period of frustration while they wait down in the pit lane. And for the second drivers taking over the cars, always a little more confusing, just trying to check when it is they'll be in their cars. Great to see so many people standing on top of the grandstand. Such a fabulous view, looking down onto the start-finish straight, onto the pits below. Really so good when you get to the pit stops, just checking how everyone is performing. And of course, that wonderful Tarzan opening corner. And on the opening lap, everybody runs across the top deck and looks at the exit of Tarzan from the other side at the top of the pit building. Ricardo van der Ende, just looking how things are. Of course, his car, the number 9 BMW from Racing Team Holland, still in the lead of this race. Started very cleanly by his teammate Bernhard Ferraro-Ranghi, and Ricardo having a word with a smile and a wave to a lot of the drivers up and down their stationary grid formation, if you will, line astern. Ricardo working his way up. You can see him in the bright orangey red overalls coming up to the front of the grid, and the number 9, his car. Door is open, so I'm sure he'll lean in to say some words of encouragement to his teammate Bernhard Ferraro-Ranghi. But for the drivers, of course, it's a time of they've geared themselves up for the start of the race. They've had the start of the race, and for those that got through, it's all very much well and good. For those who've been frustrated and fallen back, it's a time to refocus and just assess where they need to take the risks to work their way back up towards the front. And for Peter Terting and Jörg Wiebahn, Jörg at the wheel of the number 18 Pro Sport Performance Porsche Cayman, they can already relax. Already overall champions. They didn't get involved in the first corner, or the run to the first corner, and the clashes thereabout. In fact, it must have been pretty close to where they were on the grid. Jan Kasperlik started the row immediately in front of Jörg Wiebahn, so they would have seen it, but they managed to stay clear and potentially can now go on to end their season on an even greater high. They know they're the overall Pro-Am champions, and likewise their team, Pro Sport Performance, knows it's the overall team champion. So a little bit of relaxation for them. You can see the trail of fluids that has been cleaned up. You see the cement dust to the left of the pit wall. That cement dust has been put down to soak up any oils and liquids and waters that have been spilt by those two clashing Porsches. It dries it up, and often the marshals then sweep it off the top so you don't get a sandstorm when the cars go down at full racing speed. Good to see the clear up the Porsche. You can see the mark it's made on the grass there, dragging with its broken suspension. That has now been cleared up and removed. Mads Siljehaug, so strong in the middle of the bus perhaps, in the end of the first race, worked his way up from 4th to 3rd to 2nd to take victory in his Hollinger KTM crossbow. He will hand over to his Polish teammate, Maciej Dresa, later in the race around the halfway point, but he's going to be determined, I'm sure, having seen how feisty he was in the first part of this race. The first race this morning. He'll want to try and get ahead of those two BMWs before it gets to pit stop time. But right now, it's all standstill in the pit lane. In the background, you can see one of the two broken Porsche Caymans being flatbedded off the circuit and into the back paddock. Damien Dupont, Belgian racer, he's at the wheel of the Street Art Racing Aston Martin. There he is. Just saying that was a bit tough, and certainly a very positive start from him, up from 7th to 4th. So very much doing a good job for his French teammate Jérôme Demey, and now it looks as though Jérôme will be taking the AM title You have to feel for Jan Kasperlik. He'll take many a look at the replays at the start and try to work it all out. It's not always easy when you're looking down at a long shot at a grid of cars just to check who was how close to a car behind because of the foreshortening effect. But certainly he started running out of room. He had cars on either side. The car on his left, on the grandstand side, was starting to come across, and the car on the right didn't move across at all. And then he got pincered between the two of them. Overall champions Jörg Wiebahn at the wheel and Peter Terting. They did what they had to do. They stayed out of trouble. But as you can see, a lot of luck and good fortune is involved there, and could so easily have been caught up in that clash in the middle order of the grid, but it wouldn't have mattered. Yes, it would, of course, the car would be damaged, but they already nailed their title. Before lunchtime today, the race started at 10 o'clock. So really by mid-morning coffee, they had it all under control. Tim Coronel listening in, sharing his racing team Holland by Intercar BMW with Peter Christian van Oranje. Buzzers in the pit lane, signals being offered to the driver. Is that the 1 minute board? Can't see from the back. If he could swing it round, we would be able to see. It's the 1 minute board. Thank you. He managed to swivel it just enough. So the car doors should start to be closed. Drivers should start to focus on what is up ahead of them, which is going around. And let's have another look. Just had a quick flash of one of the cars. Look for the middle order, the two Porsche. Red and silver Porsche on one side. Is it the BMW coming across? Well, it does look as though it's the BMW that came across. I think that's Peter Christian van Oranje. So when Jan Kasperlik came out, he was putting all the blame on the Porsche driver of number 40, which was Graham Mundy. But I think that extra replay has shown that neither of them were guilty, but they both paid the price. So that was very, very unfortunate. It's bad enough if you're in an incident where you've just got your braking wrong and you know full well that you're to blame. It's quite another where someone else does something and you get taken out. The clock has stopped at just under 45 minutes. So we had the start of the race, we had the first lap behind the safety car, and then we have brought them into the pit lane. You count back one lap, so we did 2 laps under the safety car. But when you have a red flag, you count back a lap. All the cars standing in the pit lane, with the exception of those 2 Porsches, taken out, so unfortunately, on the run down to the first corner of the race. There's the Auto Orlando Porsche 911. 41, that's Luke Brahms in his Porsche Cayman. That's the sister car of one of the 2 that went off. The 54 KTM. That's from Team Pankel, and that's Doreen Seidel on board. Number 14, that's the Team KTM. That should be Laura Kryhammer. A lot of female racers, which is great. Car number 34, another KTM, and that's from Team Kiska, and it should be Caitlin Wood starting the race. But I think that car has a drive-through penalty to serve. I think it was something Naomi Schiff, her teammate, did in the first race. They couldn't quite get around, I believe, to awarding that award, if it can be known as an award, that penalty right at the end of the first race. But anyhow, that has a drive-through penalty. Not likely to be challenging for victory, but frustrating for the crews all the same. So final few seconds and the cars will go back out onto the circuit with just under 45 minutes of racing ahead of them. Of course, as mentioned before, between minutes 20 and 30 of this race, around the 10 minutes around the halfway point, you have to serve your mandatory pit stop. But the only driver who was going to come in and stay in, Jan Kasperlik, is already out of the race. He was the only one-man crew this weekend, and unfortunately for him, the clash with the number 72 BMW has led to him being out of the race, and also, unfortunately, the number 40 Porsche from Brookspeed. That too is out of the race. BMW safety car leading the field around, so we should be down, I believe, to 24 starters. And for all these drivers, when sitting still, the car might have been getting hotter as they sit inside it, but the tyres were certainly losing their temperature. So again, it's up to the drivers to get them up to heat, get their brakes up to heat as well. Again, there goes the Sin. That lost a lot of positions. One of the KTMs not too willing to get going, but off it goes. You can see how successful they are in this series, just in terms we've got one at the front, but just they really... A lot of young drivers being brought into the series in these KTMs. There's the penultimate car in the line. That was the final car in the line, number 44, bringing up the back of the order. There's the Swiss team Maserati, one of the most identifiable in its wonderful yellow and black livery. That certainly stands out in a sea of largely white cars. The Sin stands out. It might be white, but it's simply a very different shape to the rest of the Sin R1s. Then the very, very swoopy Porsche Caymans, actually bouncing up and down a bit. That was Jörg Viban, number 18. Luke Brahms, just behind in number 41, several places further back. But interesting, these cars, can be quite softly sprung. Maserati doesn't look softly sprung. It's this one behind that seemed quite short. It might have just been a particular bump as they accelerated from Hugenholz, Bocht, up over the top of the hill. Still bright at Zandvoort on this October afternoon. Waved yellow flag still because they're being led around to the grid. But clouds are coming in, but any promised rain, not that we wanted rain, looks as though it should be staying away until later, if at all. But looking fabulous at the front of the field, the Ecris BMW M4s, 2 of them, and then we're seeing KTM Crossbow really, really flying, and took its first victory this morning. Mattia Dresser started the race, and then it was finished in some style by Mads Siljehaug, the Norwegian racer who worked his way to the front of the field and stayed there with just about a lap or 2 to go. He hit the front, and very, very positive drive indeed. Now the field's starting to pick up its pace. The BMW safety car will pull off, and what you're seeing is Mads Siljehaug is tucked right behind the number 8 BMW on their charge down the field to Tarzan for the first time, but certainly the BMW's had its legs right at the end, breaking deep into Tarzan, but the Siljehaug is looking to take the wider line in. Doesn't manage to get the better line on the exit. Everybody else seems to stay in grid order. Yeah, Street Art Racing stays in 4th place. Then the 62 Aston Martin right behind William Moore at the wheel, being pushed very hard indeed by the Maserati. That's in 6th place through Hugenholz-Boch. Up over the crest they go. And what we saw in the first race this morning was just how nimble the KTM Crossbow can be in the tighter corners. It seems to turn in exactly as the driver wants it to do. And certainly others do start using up their tyres. It seems a little bit lighter on its rubber, so look for that coming good later in the race. Number 62 Aston Martin getting maybe a little bit held up by the number 7 Damien Dupont in the silver Aston Martin, and certainly William Moore all over him. In the Aston Vantage he shares with Dennis Strandberg. So the first 3, it's 2 BMWs ahead of the little 84, the little RYS Team Hernberg KTM Crossbow. And in the back, we've lost William Moore. He's just suddenly slowed and pulled off after the Hans Ernst Boch. Something has gone pop. Could have been on the podium this morning, ended up just out of the very, very top positions. And then when looking set for another good result, 4th place in the first will not be followed by any points at all in the second race. So what we have is the number 9 BMW, Bernard van Oranje, leading his way round from Rob Severs and being right on their tail, keeping them really, really honest. Mads Siljehaug in the KTM Crossbow, number 84. Very, very different looking car. One looks as though it's from space, one looks as though it's from the street. That's the BMW from the street, and certainly that KTM Crossbow, much more futuristic. But down the start-finish straight, it seems in terms of straight line speed, the BMW just has it, and you would have thought it might be the other way around with the little sleek KTM Crossbow. Now what we're starting to see is number 90 starting to play its hand, which is Luca Anselmi. No, it's Patrick Zamparini, who was so strong at the end of the first race. We heard Max Brahms talking to him. He also talked to Damien Dupont. Damien's in the silver Aston Martin in front of it, but you think it's now a matter of time before Patrick Zamparini works his way clear. Now a problem, it seems, for, well, maybe it was a mistake out of Hugenholz-Boch, but suddenly Mads Siljehaug lost a lot of ground. He's got it going again, but he's fallen. Instead of fighting the BMWs for second position, he's dropped right back into the grasp of Damien Dupont, right behind. In fact, I think probably the fastest of this trio, mistakes aside, is Patrick Zamparini in that great looking Maserati with the blue and red stripe up and over the roofs. And the Lamborghini, was that just the Maserati? What was that little mistake? Was it a mistake, or is there a technical problem for that KTM Crossbow? Suddenly lost about a second and a half just coming out of Hugenholz-Boch. Would suggest he either ran a little bit wide, had to stay off the power until he could get it back off the dirt on the outside of the curbs. But anyhow, still going in 3rd place, but let's watch out to see if there are any further hiccups for the number 84. Damien Dupont, number 7, or of course it's an Aston Martin, it has to be 007, 007 as in James Bond. Number 90 with the little scars of battle on its flank. Maybe that was on the run down to the first corner where it got 2, 3, 4 abreast. You can see on the number 90 it's a little bit of a tyre scuff mark. not slowing Patrick Zamperini, of course. He's got to see if he can find a way past Damien Dupont up into 4th place. Right now he's fighting hard, he's dropping off the cars down behind. In fact, they've already got someone who I think must have started from pit exit, who is just up ahead of our leading BMWs as they get down towards Hugenholz box. Further around the lap, now we come down to Hugenholz box. Just looking fairly shortly, hopefully they can dispatch it before they get up to Chevlac. Whatever the problem was for the 84 KTM Crossbow, it seems to be a one-off because he's not lost any further ground. It was a misgear, or maybe he was, as I suggested, just running wide over the dirt on the outside. Great sounding Maserati right on the tail of Damien Dupont. Paul Aston Martin in their battle for 4th place, and it certainly looks so it's going to be coming through at some point. And then, of course, Zamperini will hand over to Luca Anselmi. Anselmi's won 2 races so far this year. Now's the moment. Up the inside is the space. Well, I'll leave you to be the judge of that, but the important thing is now down the inside for the following corner. So a good, brave move there down into box number 9. Doubling back to 10, and then the short back straight that runs down to Hans Ernst Boch. So up to 4th place goes the Maserati, back to 5th goes to Damien Dupont, but Damien knows he doesn't need to take risks. He's got to hand over the car to Jerome Demey, who should just be able to stroke home and take the AM honours, because poor Jan Kaspelik out before the first corner. So galling to be leading a championship into the final round. You've got your work cut out, but you can see who your rival is. You just got to keep them inside, and you don't even get to the first corner of the race. It'd be bad enough if you were the chasing driver and got taken out, but when you're the race championship leading driver, very, very doubly frustrating. Now, the car in front of the Maserati is not in the battle. That is one that is being lapped. BMW's got past, the best KTM Crossbows has got past, and now it's up to Patrick Zamperini to make his move. Oh, the Sin is starting to make a move, trying to find space where space is not to be found, and nearly getting it off the circuit, getting very snaky indeed. Edouard Anton, the Sin R1 down to, he's pushing Jörg Wiebahn, the Pro-Am Championship winner, with his teammate Peter Terting, pushing him, but of course for Terting and Wiebahn, they don't have to take any risks at all. The overall championship is there, the Pro-Am Championship is theirs. Up in front, the number 10, this is a NMT racing team, M3 GT4, entered by Tristan and Jorik Boersma, the 2 brothers, and Jorik at the wheel at the moment. So enjoying a good run. Welcome to the championship, new this weekend. One of several new crews. I think we had 4 crews new to the championship. No, let's make it 5. 5 this weekend, showing how the appeal of the Competition 102 GT4 European Series is really, really starting to be appreciated. And certainly appreciated by Terting and Wiebahn. Wiebahn at the wheel of that number 18 Porsche Cayman at the moment. They are the overall champions. He's starting to have a look at the tail of the Sin R1. It got past him earlier in the lap, and I think will pull away. But for 18, it's been a great day, and you're sure they're going to have a really big party this evening. Pro-Am champions for 2016. Edouard Anton has the driver at the wheel of the Sin at the moment. He seems to have a little bit more speed than his teammate. That's why he qualified up towards the front end of the grid for this second race in 4th position. Had a terrible first lap and lost lots of positions, but he is certainly catching the back. And another person who's catching back is Mads Siljehaug. He made that mistake, dropped off the tail of those 2 BMWs, and now he's coming right back at them. So it certainly wasn't a technical problem with the car. It could have been a driver and circuit limits problem. So he's had his moment, he's got back, which is incredible to do. Look at such a different line he's taking around the corners to Rob Severs and our race leader, Bernhard Foronanga. He just can get that KTM turned in far more sweetly. When it comes to run down the straights, doesn't seem to have the answers. Certainly there's nothing wrong with the poise of that Crossbow. So at this point we can almost forget we've had the safety car period, followed by the red flag and the restart of this race. What we've got is a fantastic race. Those 2 BMW M4s from the Ecris racing team Holland entry, running at the front as they have been all weekend, but they have had challenges. They have been passed. The car that passed them in the opening race is the car behind them, with the driver who did the passing right underneath the rear wing of the number 8. It's Mads Siljehaug in the 84 KTM Crossbow. Up the inside he goes, pulls off the move in a very, very tidy performance. But has he gone too deep into box number 9? No, he hasn't, because he's in the right position to boss the inside line through box 10, down that short little infield straight, when you can start to see Zandvoort town in the background. Not they've got time to sightsee. Now Rob Severs trying to fight back and gets ahead, a much better exit from turn 10, and he's ahead by, well, you don't see that too often. He looked like a tidy exit from turn 10, but maybe there's a slight technical problem from number 84, almost clashing with the back of Rob Severs' BMW M4. He's got to do it all over again, and look, the Maserati's closed in. So was it another technical problem for number 84? Is he having a gear that jumps out or whatever? But certainly under acceleration, when the deed looks done, it hasn't proved to be the case. So it's the two BMWs back in front. Those in the main grandstand who can't see a big screen won't have known that the crossbow got ahead. What they will see is that the crossbow is being challenged and not quite close enough to make a move. Patrick Zamperini had a look, then decided discretion was the better part of valour, and has moved back when it's this close. It's about 1.5 to 2 seconds between our race leading Bernhard van Oranje, the number 9 BMW, back to 4th place. Just see 4th place there, Patrick Zamperini in the Maserati, and in between Rob Severs in the number 8 BMW, and Mads Siljehaug pushing so hard in his KTM crossbow. But right now the life appears to be with the Maserati. Let's see how much he can close in. Pit stop window, well, it's going to open in just over 2.5 minutes, but I don't fancy that any of these runners will be looking to come in right at the start of the 10-minute pit stop window. But then again, don't forget, for a lot of them, it is the number 2 driver who's out in the car at the moment. It's the number 2 driver starts race 2. They qualify for race 2. Some of the real gun drivers in these teams, they qualified for race 1, started race 1. They'll be itching to get going. That's one of the KTM drivers. That should be Inge Vlok. Going through all those. Sorry, Chris Vlok sharing with Emmanuel Vinker. Oh, there comes the move up for 3rd place. Easy as you can have it again. A lack of speed from turn 10 down to the Hans-Ernst Boch. And thank you very much, said Patrick Zamperini. Now, can he do anything before the pit stops about those BMWs ahead of him? I fancy one of them is going to come in at the earliest instance, which will be next time around. I think that would also be our race leader. I'd expect Bernhard von Oranje to do that, and his teammate to come in the next time around. No team wants both of its cars in on the same lap. And right now, certainly those BMWs very good in the straight line, but under cornering, you can see the Maserati can close right in. He's good on the brakes, but certainly down the straight, he loses a bit of ground and then hauls it back in again as they approach Tarzan. Now through Gerlachboch, nice clean flow. Still the crossbow hangs on behind, but I do think there might be some issues that both drivers of that car will be suffering from. At the moment it's Mads Siljehaug who's had a little trip up, little problems. He's got close to the BMW's fallen back. He's now been passed by the Maserati. Certainly in the hands of Patrick Zamperini at the moment, that is going very well indeed. He'll hand over in a very strong driver lineup to Luca Anselmi. 2 wins for Anselmi already this year, so it's a car that knows its way to the podium. Down in the world of Racing Team Holland BMWs, it looks as though pit stop time is coming up very soon. I think it'll be 9 coming in first and then 8 next time around. Let's see how soon they can prove me to be wrong. Pit stop window is opening in 30 seconds. And now it's almost 4 abreast as we come towards the end of the lap, because look, the crossbow is fighting back. Mads Siljehaug, was there a problem up ahead, or did he just think, oh well, Zamperini's been slightly distracted as he went up into turn 9 and 10. Let's see what I can do. Rob Severs in number 8 BMW still holding off Patrick Zamperini. Zamperini all but pushing him. Is he pushing him? About as close as you can get as they go through the final sequence of corners. Just up to Kumo Boch now, then the Ali Loendijk Boch. Yes, if any driver in this quartet wants to pit, they can quit if they wanted. They can come into the pit this time around. The easiest place to do that from will be from the lead of the race. And there's number 9 going in. Looks so number 9 and number 8. Did they want them both in on the same lap? Well, they've got them. So that means Ricardo van der Ende is ready to take over, and likewise Simon Knapp will be looking to jump into the number 8. Don't get confused, guys. Don't jump into the wrong cars, to the sister cars. So the cars in second and third and fourth go into first and second. The Maserati ahead of the KTM crossbow. Here we go. Final pit stop of the year for the number 9 crew. Out climbs Bernhard van Oranje. Very good stint for him. He would have been frustrated by the safety car, but he started the race in the lead. He led to the first corner, led the restart, has led all the way since, and his teammate has done a very, very good job riding shotgun. Aston Martin 007 now promoted to third place. The 84 KTM Crossbow is in second, and the number 90 Maserati leading the way. Damien Dupont really starting to throw the 07 Aston Martin around. Probably knows it's his in lap. It's absolutely maximised to give Jerome Demey, his teammate, who could and should land the AM honours, barring disasters. It would take a disaster, because as long as he scores 5th place, 6th place or higher, it should be his title. There is going to be nothing that Jan Kasperlik can do. Jan, of course, out of the race. A crash on the run down to the first corner. KTM Crossbow number 84 still doing its utmost to stay with the Maserati number 90 ahead of it. The Orba Corsa Maserati, they came in from first and second, and coming out nose to tail. Are they in the same order? 8 and 9, or more to the point, it should be 9 and 8. Let's see which way round they come out of the pits, but they've got going again, and the first 3 in the race, because they haven't pitted, diving into Tarzan now, as the BMWs that came in from first and second have made their pit stop. They're nearly a lap down, but of course the pit stops have to be served by all their rivals as well. So the real question is, will those 2 orange BMWs still be ahead, just maybe by an increased margin, when their rivals who have yet to pit have come in and made their call? Number 8 lost a little bit of ground in that pit stop sequence. Number 9 rather better. So for Ricardo van der Ende, he should have had an advantage if they'd been equal. Rather less than he's got at the moment. He's turning through Masters Bocht, as only just out of Chevrolet comes the sister car. So Simon Knapp's got a bit of catching up to do on Ricardo van der Ende, which isn't always an easy thing to do. Having a big smile on his face, he drove a very, very good stint. And the 2 BMWs now really quite spaced apart from each other. What I want to know is whether their rivals have made their pit stops. Of course, leading the race is Patrick Zamperini, who was running so strongly. Worked his way to the front in the number 90 Orba Corsa Maserati. Simon Knapp starting to cut corners as much as he dares in his BMW M4. He ought to be in second place, but he lost a bit of ground to the number 9 sister car, and that might be a gap between them into which we could see the Orba Corsa Maserati, maybe the number 84 Crossbow, slot in, or even the 007 Street Art Racing Aston Martin, the car that may yet take the title in AM for Jerome Demey. But in fact, the gap not quite as big as I thought, and there is the answer. There are the BMWs. No, they haven't managed to gain. The BMWs going through Tarzan, so they have stayed in the lead of the race. Maserati now effectively in third, and in fourth place is the 84 KTM from the Hernberg team. So it was a good pit stop from the BMWs. They weren't that far clear before the pit stops, but afterwards they most certainly are. 84 in the thick of the battle. In fact, I owe an apology. Just lost my timing screen for a second. I don't think our first handful of cars have made their pit stops. They're nearly a lap ahead, but they've got to make the pit stop. That would explain why the gaps have got so big. Sorry, when the timing screen goes down, you have to look and see what you can find. But what we know, there were very tiny pit stops in the BMWs. The battle, look at the 007 Aston right in the mix. Now we're seeing number 10 Buursma brothers car get in on the action. He's closed right up on the Street Art Racing Aston Martin, and just ahead of them we've got number 19 that's worked its way up the order, which is Nikolai Muller-Madsen sharing with Andreas Patzel. Oh, bouncing across the grass he goes. Number 10 also across the grass in the background, so right in the mix. And the 84 KTM Crossbow going great guns as well, but it's a question of where they're all going to slot back in. Maserati looks good. The Gran Turismo certainly sounds good as well. Always a note with Maseratis. They always have great sounding engines, particularly in recent years. And now it comes in for its goals from the Orba Corsa Maserati, from the Street Art Racing Aston Martin, and also the number 84 RYS Team Hernberg KTM Crossbow Others in the background getting going. Don't worry, they made their pit stops earlier. They're a lap down. You can see the red and yellow flag from the marshal just still indicating slippery track surface at pit exit. That, of course, was after the 22 and 40 Porsches clashed at the start of the race on the run down to the first corner. Pit window still open for another 3 minutes. Who's going to be the first of those to go? It should be the Maserati. Now, down to the Hans-Ernst-Bock come our first two BMWs, the first two cars in the race, their first two cars to have made a pit stop. Numbers 9 and 8. At the wheel of number 9 is Ricardo van der Ende. Simon Knapp trying not to lose touch with him in the number 8 behind. Through the Kumo Bock, now up to the Arie Luyendyk Bock. Clock ticking away, waiting for the minimum time to serve in the pit lane, and then the number 90 Maserati should get underway, but it looks though it's not going to emerge from its pit stop before it's got underway now, but the orange BMW is about to flash past at the end of the pit wall. There goes the first of them. Here comes the second, but can the Maserati slot into second place ahead of the number 8 BMW? Yes, it can. I said there was a gap between them. How many of those behind would get into it? The answer is just one, the number 90 Maserati. So it's BMW, Maserati, BMW. In the background, the number 84 KTM Crossbow with Maciej Dresa at the wheel. He's taken over from Mad Siljahau. Now, what can number 8 do? Will it be a BMW 1-2? Can Simon Knapp build on the work that Rob Severs did? Can he get back onto the tail, or will Luca Anselmi be too strong in the number 90 Aston Martin? 22 minutes of pure enjoyment ahead around this wonderful circuit on the North Sea coast of the Netherlands at Zandvoort. Time-honoured circuit, and a circuit that provides great racing. And just looking at the cars going through corners like Scheivlak, a place where you can see cars really being worked. The drivers working so hard, trying to find grip, trying to get a flow around the circuit. Bock 9, such a frustrating corner. You always feel as though you've gone in too fast there. You have to be slow in. There's a lot of understeer, but you have to get the sweet point in your tyres and work your cars around. So for a lot of the crews, that was their last pit stop of the 2016 season. And for the Van Oranje family, it's entertaining afternoon, really enjoying this GT4 action. Second place now, Luca Anselmi. Little light damage on the 0 of 90 on the door of the Oberkorsa Maserati. Is he gaining on the BMW head? If anything, he's slightly losing. I think what we're seeing is number 8 with the third place BMW, Simon Knapp at the wheel, is starting to close in. So yes, a good in-lap from Patrick Zamparini and a good acceleration away from the pit. Just got it out onto the circuit ahead of the number 8 BMW. Now I really fancy the car with Hans Severs written across the boot of the car. Rob Severs started it, but Simon Knapp now at the wheel is going to close in on that Maserati. The 84 Crossbow in the background is ever further in the background as Anselmi locks up down into Tarzan. Do that once, you can do that twice, but do it many more and your tyres will become square. The handling will go away. Through the Gerlachbocht, but at that particular point, certainly Simon Knapp seemed to have a little bit more speed in that very tricky sweeper behind the pits. Super tight, going just too deep and you run out of corner and you've got a lousy line for the Hugenholzbocht. Duncan Heisman now in number 41. Started by Luke Brahms. He's got the Swiss team Maserati right on his tail, the yellow car, number 35. Started by Giuseppe Fasciolo, handed over to Mauro Calamia. And this should be an interesting battle. My money, for all it's worth, is on Duncan Heisman pulling away in the number 41 Brooks Breed Porsche. But let's see. Different cars, very different cars indeed, and very different handling characteristics. But Duncan Heisman just knows Zandvoort so well. He knows it in all conditions. Hot, cold, wet, dry, or even being on the North Sea coast, a combination of all of them, except for the hot. Number 9. Being driven beautifully by Duncan Heisman's longtime teammate, rival, Ricardo van der Ende. You can see he's using the minimum amount of circuit or the maximum amount of curb, depending how you want to judge it all. Down to the Kumo Bocht. Off the power. Getting back on the power, winding it up, waiting to have absolute full throttle, and through the Arie Luyendyk Bocht onto the long straight. Not as long as, of course, it was in the early days when it started far further into the dunes, but still long enough for slipstreaming and overtaking. Bernhard van Oranje would love to end the season with a victory, and it's, must say, looking very good indeed. Maserati still holding on to second place. Luca Anselmi at the wheel. But for Racing Team Holland, they've had no wins this year. Had two second places for Van der Ende and Van Oranje, second at Monza in the opening race of the opening round, second this morning, but would love to end the season on the high. Driver who's going to end the season on the high potentially is Jerome DeMay for Street Art Racing in the Aston Martin. But you know what? Drivers like to race, and he's really got a race on his hand. The number 19 Pro Sport Performance Porsche Cayman right under his tail. Andreas Patzelt start there, but Nikolai Muller-Madsen is now on the board and really fancies a slice of the action. They've got company too from the 144 Aston Martin. Hard on their heels. Should be Matthew George at the wheel. And in turn the number 10 BMW right in the mix. Number 10 started by Jorik Buursma. It's now Tristan, his brother, at the wheel, getting closer and closer. But this is the beauty of GT4, look. Aston Martin, Porsche, BMW, Aston Martin in the backdrop, and I'm sure if you look further back there's another Porsche or two, and then there'll be KTM crossbows. Such diversity of machinery, which is always so popular with sports car fans and people up in the grandstands, and here of course in the dunes looking at these cars. There's a good view of one of the KTM crossbows. When I say one of the KTM, I mean the one, because this is the one that's been the dominant one today. It took victory this morning in the 9th of 10 races in this year's series, running in 4th at the moment. Doesn't have the answers for those up ahead, but being driven very well indeed. Mads Siljehaug started it, but is he being caught by that BMW behind him? Well, let's just keep an eye on that. That's number 72, new to the series this weekend. It's Tim Coronel at the wheel. Peter Christian Van Oranje started that and working its way forward. The yellow helmet, yes, it's a Coronel on board. Sweeping through Tarzan one more time. Just over a quarter of an hour to go, plus the one lap. It's 50 minutes plus that extra lap. Tight down into turn one, as we could call it, but Tarzan as we really should call it. And now number 19 being somewhat held up, and that's given a chance to Jerome DeMay to make good his escape, because certainly he was being pushed very hard indeed by Nikolai Muller-Madsen in the 19 Pro Sport Performance Porsche, which had a very nice tidy exit, but the BMW was better still on the power, on the gas out of Hugenholzbach. And that's Tristan Buursma. 144 Aston Martin, not looking as it's supposed to. It was supposed to be white and green, but the shunts coming out of this corner yesterday led to a mercy mission and another one being brought in overnight. That's why it's dark blue. Now, I said Jerome DeMay had a little bit of breathing space. Well, he had about 30 seconds until the number 10 BMW closed immediately onto his tail and will be looking to go up the inside. Maybe not here, but certainly if he can get a good exit for the following corner, turn 10, he might be able to dive up the inside into the Hans-Ernst-Bock. You take a wide line in and you can have a faster exit. A tight line in that the Aston Martin took, then you're compromised on when you can get the power down. You can get it down earlier if you're on the wider line, and that's exactly what the number 10 BMW driver has done. He should dive up the inside into Hans-Ernst-Bock. Is it worth the risk, as that silver Aston Martin is going to be coming across? You've got to tap for his troubles. Don't forget, he is leading. He has to finish this race to make sure, pick up points in this race to make sure he wins the AB class. He doesn't want the contact with another car. He should have either closed the door earlier or left it open entirely. Oh dear, for the Chodson family it went wrong in the first race this morning, but this time no damage, just a very smoky off and on your way. I can see the day is getting a little shorter here in October. Sin lights flashing, trying to pick its way past the 144 Aston Martin. The Street Art Racing's Aston number 0007 still clear of the number 10 BMW 19 Porsche, tucked in behind the 144 Aston Martin right there, and the car that was flashing trying to get past the Sin R1 now with Nikolai Sergiu at the wheel. Comes through. Jerome DeMay is in 6th place overall, so that's the battle for 6th down to 9th. The 144 Aston Martin is a lap down, but actually enjoying the action and perfectly able to keep up with the racing ahead of it. So you sometimes get this, particularly in a two-driver race. Oh, look how close Tristan Buursma is through Chevlac. 18 overall champions this year. They just need to run to the finish. So that's Peter Terting now on board. Jörg Fiban started that. Where is the next move going to come from Tristan Buursma? Down the inside into turn 9. Not quite enough space. Round the outside, but he's pushed him very wide indeed. But he's got the nip back now, and number 19 Porsche fancies taking a look. Trying a different line. He went round the outside at turn 10 last time, up the inside, and he's got his nose ahead of 19 Porsche. Might get past the 007. Aston Martin 007 gets the power down a little bit better. The 144 Aston Martin trying not to get a second shunt of the weekend, but he goes on to the dirty stuff on the outside. This is a super tight corner, Hans-Ernst Boch, and the 007's gone for a spin. That is not what he wanted. He's leading. Jerome Demey is leading the AM Championship because his arch rival is out of the race. That's Jan Kasperlik, and now he's had a spin. What he wanted to do was actually let this group of cars come past. It's against the nature of a driver to do that, but doing the math, doing the sensible thing. The traffic got too hot there, and unfortunately the AM class leader, will he get back underway again? But he's been spat towards the rear, but most of those against him were pro runners. He's lost track position. Has he lost many positions in the AM class? Oh, so nervous moments. So maybe Jan Kasperlik can dare to look at the screen in his pit garage. Probably doesn't want to, but if there's a non-finish for his rival Jerome Demey, he could yet, despite getting not even as far as Tarzan on the opening lap, take the AM Championship. So keeping an eye. Jerome Demey, we know, is leading the AM class. At the start of the last lap, Tristan Boersma, but he's second, but he's now in the lead of the AM class in the race after Jerome had that spin, but he's not in the championship battle. Oh, nothing in racing is over until it's over. Looking there at number 74. That's been passed. That's Anna Ratha and Cedric Freiberghaus. Anna should have started the race. So, Jerome Demey. Let's settle down and see where he's fallen to in the order, just waiting for him to complete his lap. What, of course, I can tell you, hand on heart, is Ricardo van der Ende. Number 9 is leading the race. There he is, Luc Anselmi, giving chase. 1.8 seconds down last time around. It looks about the same this time, maybe going out to 2 seconds. Luc Anselmi in the second place, Maserati, actually coming about the same again. Third place should be the number 8 BMW, Simon Knapp. Very good race for the Maserati crew here. Just under a dozen minutes to the end of the race. A dozen minutes plus that one final lap. Will that final lap be one too many for the Equus BMW crew? Looking for that first win of the year. They've had 2 second places, but Luc Anselmi is certainly closing in. Waiting to see Jerome Demey, waiting for him to cross the start-finish line, is down to 6th in Pro-Am. What points does that give him? 8. How many points down is he? 8. Oh dear, and the Sin goes for a run off the circuit. Now I'll have to do some further maths and work out who's had more wins, because if they stay equal on points at the end of the championship, it'll go down to the number of wins in the bag. And I can tell you that there have been 3 wins scored by Jan Kasperlik. Jerome has scored 1. So if he finishes where he finishes, it's not going to be good enough, and Jan will be champion. So 1 position has to be gained. That will give him an extra 2 points. But at the moment, that's quite a target, because he's some distance behind the car that's 5th in class, which is Gabi Ullier. A car that Lisette Brahm started. That's the number 28 BMW. There is Jerome Demey. Doesn't really want that KTM driving up the inside. That's the car behind him, Cedric Freiberghaus at the wheel at the moment. Trying to see if there's any damage. All smiles from the grid girls. Has it run away from that moment of incaution? Maybe not doing the sensible thing, but anyhow, you know, it's always confusing for drivers out there. But I said the lap before, he ought to just let those behind who are pushing come through. So he went from the lead in the class down to 6th, but more to the point, he is some distance behind the car that's 5th. He needs that 5th place class, and now he's fallen down another position. No, that's a pro car that's come past. He can relax, but he doesn't always know that. So for Jerome Demey, it all looked good after the run to the first corner. Championship rival in the AM class out against the pit wall. He wouldn't have seen that till the next time around when the safety car picked them up, but he would have spotted his rival Jan Kasperlik, the 22 Porsche, in against the pit wall out of the race. He knew the lead was 8 points. At the moment, he's standing to end the championship on the same number of points, but it'd be 1 win down, 2 wins down, so the championship will go to Jan Kasperlik. So fingernails will be bitten into the final 10 minutes plus that 1 extra lap. The number 9, Ricardo van der Ende BMW, well in the lead, looking back there, and the second place car, the Maserati. When I say the second place car, I now have to say it is right with him on the outside, just trying to see what he can do through turn 10. He's getting super close, but Ricardo knows exactly what he's doing. Up to Hans-Ernst Boch. Will it be a first win Will Luca Anselmi go through? But certainly the third place car, the BMW of the teammate, is some distance further back. You just saw it flashing through in the background. So here come our lead duo up to the Kumo Bocht. Starting to get quite tail happy, the number 9 BMW. Actually with the M4, that is its characteristic. Desperate for a win. Sweeping through the Arie Luyendyk Bocht onto the start-finish straight. Is this the lap that Maserati with Luca Anselmi goes through into the lead to head towards what could be its third win of the season, or can the number 9 BMW stay in front all the way to the finish? Bernard van Oranje, you can see him, he certainly hopes so, but Ricardo van der Ende is going to have to use all his years of experience, all his knowledge of every little metre, even centimetre of this circuit through the Gerlach Bocht. Don't leave the door anywhere near open, but it's all about getting a tidy entry to Hugenholz-Bocht to make sure you get a really, really good exit, because this is where you need the slingshot. Any nanosecond you're late getting on the power, and it multiplies, it manifests itself as you go all the way through the wonderful sweepers and then to Schevelach and beyond. Number 18, he's already championed, Peter Terting. He's got the Swiss team Maserati right behind. Mauro Calamia now at the wheel. Let him through. Doesn't need to fight it. Let it go. And indeed, that is perhaps what Jerome Demey should have done. Let him go and then have a fight back as you run down to Tarzan. But it is all about racing. So Peter Terting obviously decides, I am in this to fight. You know, I am the champion with my teammate Jörg Viban. Jörg did a great job to start the race, but to have some fun between now and the checkered flag. The checkered flag on most of their 2016 season. Still it goes on. Enticing television, just looking to see where these moves can be made. In third place, Simon Knapp, not having to have too much of a fight. He can't catch this lead duo ahead of him, and he's got a bit of a gap back to Mathieu Dresser behind him. This one's going to run all the way to the flag. Different lines, defensive lines and attacking lines. Sometimes it's easier to be the hunter than the hunted, and certainly Ricardo van der Ende is the hunted, very much so, more so than ever before as they go up. I think it's the number 44 KTM crossbow up ahead. It matters not which one it is, it's about who can get down into Tarzan first, who is going to be obstructed. Will either of them be? No, they're not quite close enough for that crossbow there. In some ways they almost would. Through the Gerlach Bocht they go, through the sweeper, then the Gerlach Bocht, now down the little slope, stubby little straight down to the Hugenholz-Bocht. Where are they going to catch that back marker? Possibly a none too inconsequential corner. Schevelach, let's hope the driver of that car is being shown the blue flag, wasn't at that post, and we'll see the lead battle is coming up and keep out of the way. Be a shame for this wonderful battle to be interrupted with just over 5 minutes plus that final lap to go. As the leaders come up, the Swiss team Maserati, Mauro Calamia is picking off those up ahead. He passed number 18, he's just got now past number 19, so good drive from Mauro Calamia for the Swiss team, opposing those two very well driven Porsche Cayman Club Sports. And now was that a move for the lead when he went up the inside, but it hasn't paid off at turn 9 or at the entry to turn 10 for Luca Anselmi in the white, blue and red Maserati, pushing very, very hard on the exit down the little run to Hansa Bocht they go, but it's still the 9 BMW at the front of the field. Ricardo van der Ende holding on to the lead. Is he going to end 2016 with a bang, with the top step of the podium? All eyes on the screen to see the action all the way around. So difficult for spectators. They want to stay in touch, the teams and crews, but so much the best place to watch would be with a little screen in your hand, standing on top of the pit building, looking down at the entrance and the exit of Tarzan. Now there is Tarzan in the sunlight in the background. Still KTM crossbows up ahead of them. Haven't caught them at the pace I thought they would. Here's our lead battle. What's the gap between them? Well, you can see it's about 1.5 car lengths, which equates to way under a second in real money, if you will. The bright sunshine down there, smiles starting to come on the faces of the racing team Holland crew, but certainly Luca Anselmi is far from finished in that number 90 Maserati. Good opening stint by Patrick Zamperini, who had such a strong closing stint. And don't forget, in the first race, yes, there were 2 safety car periods, but Patrick talked about saving the tyres during those periods. We had a safety car period in this race when Zamperini was driving, and the red flag that brought them all to a standstill into the pit lane while the 2 stricken Porsches were cleared up. Wonderful wide shot out of the Arie Luyendyk Bocht. Start finish straight. time-honoured start-finish straight at Zandvoort. Sin is the second of the cars turning to that group, but it's the 18 and 19 Porsches. 19 is ahead at the moment. That's Nikolai Moller-Madsen and Peter Terting pushing very hard indeed. He knows that he and his teammate Jörg Fiban have landed already the Pro-Am title for the Competition 102 GT4 European Series. But actually at the moment it's all just about the pure racing out on the circuit. Luca Anselmi took victory in the opening round at Monza. He won one of the two races. The Hungaroring would love to get a hat-trick of victories. Will it happen? Well, let us see. Where is the move going to come? Because there's not that much space around the circuit at Zandvoort. There's even less when Ricardo van Ende, with so much experience here, is in the car in front. He's not going to leave half a centimetre of a gap. Or is he? How are his tyres in this closing stage of the race? Has he got enough life left? Certainly being able to hold in a very nice, tidy line through the final couple of corners. Good exit speed. A bit of rubber debris being pushed off by the Maserati, flicked into the air, ran wide enough. All that rubber debris on the outside of the circuit, went right to the edge, caught it up possibly from almost like the gutter just outside the tarmac. On the exit of the final corner, he's caught the tail of the race-leading BMW, pitched it into a spin, so the Maserati is going to fall down to third place. The Maserati takes the lead, the number 9 BMW, 2 and a bit minutes remaining, and the little clash, you can see front-end bodywork damage and very light just in front of the headlight from the Maserati there, and it pitched Ricardo van der Ende, who left no gap at all and didn't really look like a move was on, but we had a clash. The Maserati with Luca Anselmi into the lead of the race. You can see the bodywork damage from the contact. I didn't expect a move like that. I was almost just looking to see how close behind the number 8 BMW was, then round it went. So suddenly in the dying moments of the race, on the left of your screen, Bernhard van Oranje was thinking that first win was getting more and more possible. His car was still leading, 2.5 minutes plus that extra lap to be done. Around it was spun. Let's have a look. The BMW number 9 seems far enough clear. Down into Tarzan they go. He's 1.5, maybe 2 car lengths clear. Comes down to 1 car length. Then halfway round the corner, here comes the impact. Well, there's a great speed differential between the cars. I don't know how we managed to have so much of a speed differential, but the net result, Maserati has tapped the rear of the BMW. Round it goes. The sister car with Simon Knapp on board is now up into second place, and the now slightly battered Maserati, Luca Anselmi, he's had 2 wins. Looks like he's going to be heading for his third. Leading the race. Can the other orange BMW restore the honour for Racing Team Holland by Chris Motorsport? I'd say the gap is too much to be closed down. The contact tells its own story, unfortunately, and that was a bit of contact that Ricardo van der Ende can have done without, so possible win. Diving into the pits now goes the Maserati, so the number 8, so maybe that bodywork is rubbing on the tyre, so led fleetingly, so suddenly it's back to being a 1-2 as it was early in the race between the 2 BMWs, but before the pit stops it was 9 ahead of 8, and now it's 8 ahead of 9, so Simon Knapp went from third into the lead of the race in less than a lap. It was when he came down to Tarzan last time around. Drive-through penalty appears to have been very, very quickly issued. That's about as fast as stewards can make a decision. That was very, very effective policing. And where has the Maserati come back out? Certainly being blamed for that collision with the number 9. That will be of little recompense for the number 9 crew. Ricardo van der Ende, who's still out there, and his teammate Bernhard van Oranje. But number 8, Rob Severs started the race. Simon Knapp has inherited the lead in the closing moments. 19 and 18, they seem to have been almost tied together. It's still Nikolai Moller-Madsen ahead of Peter Terting, enjoying such a fierce battle. They had the number 10 BMW work its way past the 2 of them, the Bursma brothers BMW, but they've enjoyed a great race. These are teammates, don't forget, for Pro Sport Performance, the team that's easily won the team's title, one of the 3 titles in the GT4 European Series, sponsored by Competition 102. At the moment, and for not much longer by the looks of things, is all that the 19 crew has to do to stay ahead of 18. So Nikolai Moller-Madsen, Andreas Patzelt started that car, handed over to Nikolai Moller-Madsen. But really, here is the car that didn't expect to take victory, fancied a podium, looked good for a podium, and suddenly the race fell into its lap. Number 8 crew, started by Rob Severs, Simon Knapp at the wheel, waiting for the signal. On to the final lap we go. So there we are. There's the two BMWs, first and second. They were the other way around. There was the Maserati between them. Maserati number 90, Luca Anselmi at the wheel, decided to make a move down into Tarzan, clattered the back of number 9, spun Ricardo van der Ende out of the lead of the race. And now for Bernhard van Oranje, instead of cheering on his teammate for victory, he doesn't look too sad with second place, however. And running around Luca Anselmi, well, he's not close enough to get near them. I have to keep an eye out also for where Jerome de May is in the AM class. He's running in 6th and he's not close enough to make a challenge to get 5th. So it looks as though on countback, Jan Kaspelik, don't count on me for this though, should be taking the AM honours when he thought all was out of the window for him after that clatter on the run down to the first corner to Tarzan on the opening lap. Simon Knapp really pressing on. He and Rob Severs, they picked up a second place last time out at Hungaroring. They've got 3 third places and this could be their first win of the year. Why not end the year on a high? Yes, it fell into their lap, but they've been competitive all weekend. Rob Severs started. Simon Knapp looks like he's going to be bringing it home. In the background, 5 and a bit seconds down, is Ricardo van der Ende. He'll be frustrated, but at least relieved he stayed ahead of the Maserati. That was serving the drive-through penalty. Oh dear, we've lost one right in the closing stages. The number 74 from True Racing. That should be Cedric Freiberghaus pulling off. So the final couple of corners through the penultimate corner, past the big gravel bed. Looking very well balanced and a smile under the helmet, I'm sure, as he comes onto the start-finish straight for the final time. Lights ablaze. The number 8 BMW wins the final race of the season. So race 2, it's 8 ahead of 9 coming to the finish. Great result, double for Racing Team Holland. And then it ought to be, well, let's just see who comes through at the end. Well, that is as close as it can be. 3rd and 4th. Massi Dresser just managed to hold off Luca Anselmi by a blink of an eye. So the Maserati ended up 4th, just behind the 84 KTM Crossbow that won the opening race this morning. Tim Coronel ought to be coming home in 5th place. We'll just wait for that. Tim Coronel driving the 72 BMW. But the Pro-Am honours for 2016, we already knew the identity of the winners of that. It's Jörg Wiebad who started the race and Peter Terting who will be finishing it. There's number 19, that'll be the next one up the road. But the Pro-Am honours this year have gone to the white Porsche with the orange flash. It's just taking the checkered flag ahead of the Aston Martin there. Running over some debris, the KTM Crossbow right there in the middle of the mix. But there's Rob Severs. Well, he's taken victory in the final round. Thumbs up to his crew as he runs over. So for Racing Team Holland, darkening sky over Zandvoort. What a way to end 2016, the final round of the Competition102 GT4 European Series, and they're going to be picture perfect as they come round side by side, tucked in behind 84, that KTM Crossbow. Mads Siljehout started and Massi Dresser just did enough to hold off number 90, the recovering Maserati after its drive-through penalty. Johnson Maserati also got to the end. Jerome de May, I think, ended 6th in class. And that, by my maths, but don't rely on me, will put him equal on points with Jan Kaspelik. But Jan, who was out on the opening lap, didn't even get as far as turn 1. I think he's champion, but we'll wait for confirmation of that. Wow, how much drama can you fit into 2 races at Zandvoort? Well, I think about as much as we've managed today, and that's been truly fantastic. Great the weather held up, and for next year we are going to have 2 championships. It'll be the one largely based in France. And just quickly looking down to Jerome de May, he ended the race 7th in class. In fact, he was passed by Anthony Chodson right at the finish, so he doesn't end equal in points. He ends just agonising behind. So for Jan Kaspelik, he gets the AM Championship, and for the Ecris crew, they get the honour of racing around in the Dutch sunshine with a 1-2 in the final race, the 10th and final race of the championship. It's all over. We'll have the final podium ceremony, and in true championship fashion, we will have a big party this evening. AM honours went to Tristan Bursma, 8th place overall. So that was a good run from the Bursma brothers on their debut in the series. 5th place was Tim Coronel, 6th was Duncan Heisman in the number 41 Porsche. 7th was Mauro Calamia in the Swiss team Maserati. We saw that working its way through the order. And then, as mentioned, Tristan Boersma took the AM honours in 8th place overall. Nikolai Moller-Madsen came into the race today hoping, had an outside chance of overall Pro-Am honours. He finished 10th today and took a point after some great racing, but for Terting and Wiebahn, they were way clear and deserving winners. Great skies over the circuit here in the dunes just by the North Sea at Zandvoort. And the car that took the final honours of the year. Rob Severs plays a drum roll on the door, undoes the net, handshake with Simon Knapp. So ending 2016 on a high. Great job from them, and it certainly came good in the final few laps with the clash between number 90 Maserati, Luca Anselmi, tipping the tail of Ricardo van der Ende around. And the joy to be seen. Just to reiterate, in the AM class, 8th place overall victory for the Boersmas. Then the Sin, number 11, finishing 2nd in class and 3rd in AM. In 14th place overall, number 76, it was the Autolander Porsche in 14th place. And celebrating in a little bit of style. He forgot to find his way in the pit lane, but hey, you got to celebrate sometime. Ricardo van der Ende put a bit more of a smile on his face after the little mishap down at Tarzan, the clatter up the back from the Maserati, number 90, the Orba Corsa Maserati. Given the drive-through penalty, that took it down to 4th place, and Basai Dresser just held on to 3rd place. Very, very close in that KTM crossbow. There's the Autolander Sport Porsche, 3rd in the AM class, ending their season with a podium. And a driver who sadly got lost onto the way to Parc Fermé. But it's Ricardo van der Ende. He knows his way around the circuit, and he knows how, for the fans in the grandstand, give them a little bit of something to, some more images from a great day to put on their cell phones. Great little bit of drifting there. I'm waiting for Simon Knapp, and I feel fairly sure that any moment now we'll have him grabbed. There's Ricardo van der Ende. Max Brahms getting down for the interviews, but it's been a busy old day here at Zandvoort. Some great racing, wonderful support program. And we're ready with Max for the interviews.
Ricardo, gefeliciteerd, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It's like a double feeling. I think we fought like real fighters, but yeah, only with 1 or 2 laps to go, I just got a punch up out the ass, but maybe that's racing, I don't know, but we really wanted this win, but we didn't on his home circuit. So yeah, we're very happy, and this is the first 1-2 for the team. So I'm really excited and really happy for the team, but I really wanted this one by ourselves.
Hey Bernard, if I say home circuit, I have to take this one serious for you. How did it feel?
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, we got a pole position, we could take it to 1-2 until the pit stop. Ricardo had an incredible fight, I mean, to the close, but as Ricardo said, very happy with the 1-2 for the team. I mean, the best way to end it on the home circuit. Of course, it would have been better the other way around, but for the team it's perfect and really well deserved.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
So good to hear there from Ricardo van der Ende. And Bernhard van Oranje was desperate for the win on his home patch, but didn't come, and this is why. About a lap and a half to go, and I still can't quite work out how the Maserati was carrying so much speed through that point in the corner, but Luca Anselmi tagged the rear of Ricardo van der Ende in the number 9 BMW. He got it going again, but the sister car, number 8, was able to come flashing through on the outside before number 9 could be spun back round, tyre smoking away. Ricardo trying not to push it too far to the left, otherwise you go into the gravel on the exit. That would have been embarrassing. And the drive-through penalty dropped Maserati out of the running order, dropped him down to 4th, and he ended there. 3rd place taken right on the line by the 84 KTM crossbow crew. But for Racing Team Holland, double victory, 1 and 2 on their home circuit, particularly for the Van Oranjes at Zandvoort. And good to see the smiles all round. Evening sun on the podium will be in the faces of the drivers. Should make some great photography. So the final set of podiums coming up for the Competition102 GT4 European Series. It's been a couple of races. And let's hear from the Boersma brothers who won the AM class, 8th place overall. Down with Max.
Congratulations with your podium position for both of you. I think it was a fantastic race.
Yeah, it was a great race. York, well, defended this position very well. I think we slowly climbed up the board, and yeah, I had a well empty track, so I could do good lap times. First, I had to overtake the Aston Martin, but finally, when I overtook him, yeah, it was quite easy to maintain my pace and finish the race.
It was quite a massive start, and I saw your car involved. What did you see? What happened?
Yeah, there was quite a rough start. I mean, it was busy on the track, and everybody was pushing for his position. And I took the inside as the Tarzan, I took the outside as the Gerlach, and I think in the end I had my good position. We had a red flag, we had a restart, and I could maintain my position. So yeah, fantastic race. Yeah.
Does it feel like more for next year?
Definitely, definitely.
Congratulations.
Well, there was an interview with the Bursma brothers, and in fact it was their car, not the number 72, I apologise, that possibly triggered that incident down into Tarzan on the opening lap that took the two Porsche Caymans out. That is all history, however, and we are going to have a very sunny podium with the two racing Team Holland crews coming up any moment now. So the Bursmas, though, clearly a lot of speed, and through the course of that race we saw them picking their way up the order, and they took the AM honours, not by an enormous amount, it was by 3 and a bit seconds ahead of the Sin, number 11. Nikolai Sergiu George finishing that in second place. Then about 5 places further back, the third car in the AM class was Giuseppe Jesi in the number 76 Porsche, which is from Ortolando, shared with Alessandro Giovanelli. So another season of growth, a second season for the GT4 European Series, and cars look great, they sound great, and the racing, particularly here at Zandvoort, absolutely fantastic. So it's been a thoroughly enjoyable year of racing, and look forward to more growth next year. As I said, we have Mercedes with a GT4 car coming out, and Audi as well. That should bring us up to 13 different shapes of car that can go out and play in the GT4 European Series. So cars driven back round to the paddock. We're just waiting to see the podium ceremony. And they're the crew that finished in third place. That's the KTM team Hohenbergs, which is Mathieu Dresser, and it's a family tie for Ricardo van der Ende in second place on the left, and Bernhard van Oranje. And then they didn't expect the win, they expected a podium, but for Rob Seversu's second up and Simon Knapp, job well done, and they end 2016 with victory.
Dat is het volkslied natuurlijk voor het Racing Team Holland. Dat ging nog even door bij Ekeris Motorsport.
So applause all round, a great race to bring the season to a close for the Competition 102 GT4.